Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to your custom-tailored deep dive. We are thrilled you're hanging out with us today because the mission we have on the docket is, well, honestly, it's one of the most jarring, fascinating contrasts we've seen in the automotive world in a very long time.
Oh, absolutely. It's a wild ride.
We are looking at Lucid Motors in the year 2026, and our goal today is to explore the collision between building the ultimate mythological dream car and the brutal spreadsheet-driven reality of surviving as an electric vehicle startup today.
Right, because to really grasp what is happening with this company, you have to hold two completely contradictory realities in your head at the very same time.
Which is not easy to do.
No, it's not. Because on one side of the ledger, you have the pure, unadulterated poetry of automotive engineering, just art. But on the other side, you have the cold, hard, unforgiving math of a multi-billion-dollar corporate balance sheet that, well, it demands constant feeding.
And we have a fantastic stack of sources to help you navigate those two realities. First, we're looking at the official 2026 specs for the staggering $249,000 Lucid Air Sapphire.
A masterpiece of a machine.
Truly. Second, we've pulled a highly entertaining Italian article titled Olimpo Elettrico, which translates to Electric Olympus. And it imagines a literal Greek goddess car shopping for an EV.
I love that framing so much.
It's so fun. And finally, to bring us completely crashing back down to earth, we have Lucid's freshly released Q4 and full year 2025 financial results dated February 24th, 2026.
The spreadsheets.
Exactly, the spreadsheets. We are going to reconcile the sheer art of what they are building with the incredibly high-stakes financial game they are playing to stay alive.
To that Italian article you mentioned, Olimpo Elettrico, that serves as the perfect entry point into the art side of the equation.
It really does.
The author proposes this completely absurd but brilliant hypothetical. If Asteria, the Greek Titan goddess of falling stars and nocturnal oracles,
Great title, by the way.
right, if she walked into a car dealership in 2026, what on earth would she buy?
And the also makes a really compelling case that a titan of the cosmos wouldn't be caught dead in a clunky, gas-guzzling SUV.
Definitely not.
She would demand something that bends the laws of physics. She would buy the Lucid Air Sapphire. The article points out that as the goddess of falling stars, Asteria requires, quote, meteor speed.
Meteor speed. And, when you look at the source material for the Sapphire's performance, the engineering actually backs up the mythology.
It's kind of terrifying how fast this thing is.
The numbers completely defy what a luxury sedan should be capable of doing. Lucid developed a proprietary in-house three-modal powertrain for this vehicle.
3 motors.
Yeah, there's a twin-motor rear-drive unit and a single motor up front. When you combine those three, the vehicle produces an astonishing 1,534 horsepower.
Okay, wait, let's just pause on that number for a second.
It's a lot.
We throw around horsepower figures so casually these days, but putting 12,234 horsepower to the ground without the tires, just instantly vaporizing into smoke, that requires an immense amount of software intervention.
Oh, massive amounts.
How are they physically launching a car of this size to 60 miles per hour in 1.89 seconds?
That is where the twin rear-drive unit comes into play, utilizing a technology called torque vectoring.
Okay, break that down for us.
So instead of just dumping power indiscriminately to the back wheels, the system can pivot the rear of the vehicle by sending torque to the rear wheels in opposite directions.
Wow.
Right, so if you're entering a corner, it can push the outside wheel harder to help the car carve through the turn.
Like physically forcing it around the bend.
Exactly. And if you're launching in a straight line, it micromanages the grip at each individual wheel thousands of times a second to ensure maximum traction.
So it's not just brute force, it's brain power.
It's the level of algorithmic control that allows a very heavy luxury sedan to hit a top speed of 205 miles per hour while feeling entirely stable.
And the aesthetics tie into the mythological premise beautifully too, because Asteria is a creature of the night sky, right?
Right.
The Sapphire is offered in an exclusive metallic paint called Sapphire Blue. Now, the official specs note, this is a modern interpretation of Imperial Blue, paying homage to America's historic racing colors.
Racing pedigree is definitely there.
But the Italian author argues that for our goddess, it's simply the perfect shade of the midnight sky. Combine that with the glass canopy roof, and she can stay connected to her sister stars while she's blasting down the California coast.
That glass canopy completely changes the psychological feeling of the cabin.
How so?
Well, traditional sedans can feel cavernous or enclosed. Removing the visual constraints of a solid roof makes the interior feel expansive. Furthermore, The article astutely points out a very functional requirement for an oracle.
Absolute silence.
Exactly. Absolute silence.
Because oracles need quiet to think, to prophesy, to listen to the cosmos. You can't do that over the roar of a V8 engine.
You really can't.
Yeah.
The Sapphire offers a perfectly tranquil environment, largely due to the inherent silence of electric motors. But making a car go fast is only half the engineering battle.
You also have to stop it.
Silently and smoothly.
Right.
The Sapphire is equipped with standard carbon ceramic brakes. We're talking massive 16.5-inch rotors in the front and 15.4-inch rotors in the rear.
Those are serious track-grade components.
They are, and typically track-tuned suspension and carbon brakes result in a harsh, jarring ride on regular city streets.
Yeah, you usually feel every single pebble on the road in a car like that.
But Lucid managed to tune the suspension with unique damper settings to create this bizarre paradox, a car that can outrun almost anything on a track, but still retains exceptional ride quality, as the official press kit describes it.
It is entirely peaceful until the moment you decide to press the accelerator to the floor.
Precisely.
And our goddess wouldn't have to stop very often to charge her chariot either.
No, she wouldn't.
Asteria was famous in the myth for turning herself into a wandering island to escape Poseidon, so she knows a thing or two about endless roaming. The Sapphire boasts an EPA estimated range of 427 miles.
That is over 800 kilometers on a single charge.
Which is insane for a performance car.
Achieving 4,234 horsepower almost universally means sacrificing efficiency and range. Conversely, achieving 427 miles of range usually means stripping out performance to save weight and battery drain.
You generally have to pick one.
Exactly.
Wow.
To package both extremes into the exact same vehicle is what makes the Sapphire an undeniable engineering masterpiece.
And the automotive press seems to agree completely. I mean, the quotes from the reviewers in the official press kit are bordering on reverential.
They really are.
Jason Camisa from Haggerty called it, quote, the best handling sedan in the history of the world, or maybe the best handling car, period.
High praise.
And Mark Brownlee, MKBHD, pointed out it has best-in-class build quality, storage, rear seats, acceleration, and materials. It's literally a chariot for a god.
But that $250,000 sticker price is where the poetry abruptly ends.
And the brutal corporate reality begins.
Yes.
Fully equipped at $249,000. You simply do not survive as a modern automotive company by building a handful of hyper sedans for Greek gods and tech billionaires.
You really don't.
You have to pay for all that groundbreaking R&D. So let's leave Mount Olympus and open up the spreadsheets. We have the February 2026 release of their Q4 and full year 2025 financial results.
The financial report is the ultimate reality check for any listener who follows the EV space.
It brings you right back down to earth.
But before we get to the terrifying numbers, there are genuine victories in this 2025 report that need to be recognized. This was a record year for Lucid in terms of actually getting vehicles into driveways.
Okay, let's lay out those victories, because the numbers do show some serious momentum.
They delivered 15,841 vehicles for the full year of 2025. That represents a 55% increase compared to 2024.
Which is substantial growth.
And the fourth quarter alone was a company record with 5,345 deliveries. That specific quarter drove Q4 revenue up 123% year over year to $522.7 million.
So they're moving metal.
They are. When you tally up the entire year, total revenue hit an impressive $1.35 billion. They navigated supply chain bottlenecks and significant tariff headwinds to nearly double their production footprint year over year.
Okay, so revenue is up, deliveries are up, they're putting thousands more cars on the road, but the bottom line tells a much darker story.
A very dark story.
Building spaceships on wheels buys an absolutely staggering amount of cash. For the full year of 2025, Lucid reported a GAAP-diluted net loss of $12.09 per share.
A $12 loss per share is a massive figure. Just to put that in perspective, if an established legacy automaker reported a $12 loss per share, Wall Street would be calling for the immediate resignation of the entire executive board.
It's brutal. Even our all-knowing Oracle Asteria would need a very stiff drink after looking at a multi-billion-dollar operating loss.
She definitely would.
So let's translate that for someone who isn't staring at financial terminals all day. How does a startup survive that level of cash burn without completely collapsing?
This phenomenon is known among industry insiders as the Valley of Death.
The Valley of Death. Sounds fun.
It's really not. Automotive manufacturing is incredibly capital intensive. You are forced to spend billions of dollars to build state-of-the-art factories, develop complex electric powertrains, and set up global supply chains.
All before you even sell anything.
Exactly. Years before you have the sales volume to cover those fixed costs. It is a terrifying game of financial endurance.
Now, I'm looking at their lifeline here, and the report notes they ended the quarter with approximately $4.6 billion in total liquidity.
Right.
4.6 billion sounds like a massive war chest, but if they're bleeding cash to build global factories, isn't that runway actually terrifyingly short? Are they just delaying the inevitable?
You have to view that 4.6 billion through the lens of their aggressive expansion plans. It is a substantial lifeline, but it is actively being deployed.
Where is it going?
They are using that money to fund their daily operations while simultaneously expanding their manufacturing facilities in Arizona and building out a massive new footprint in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
The CFO, Taufik Boussaid, stated that this liquidity position gives them the flexibility to execute their roadmap while making targeted adjustments.
What kind of adjustments are we talking about?
Well, they're actively trying to improve their margins by reallocating resources. The report explicitly mentions adjusting some of their U.S.-based non-manufacturing workforce.
So, layoffs in the corporate offices.
Essentially, yes. They are tightening their belt in the corporate suites to ensure the assembly lines keep running.
Think about what this means for you as an observer of the EV industry. The market right now is absolutely cutthroat. We have watched incredibly hyped companies declare bankruptcy over the last few years.
It's a graveyard.
Lucid is currently executing a massive corporate pivot that will entirely determine if they survive to see the end of the decade. They know they cannot rely on the $80,000 to $250,000 Air sedan to reach profitability.
Their 2026 production guidance paints a clear picture of this pivot. They are aiming to produce between 25,000 and 27,000 vehicles this year.
And hitting that number depends almost entirely on the successful ramp-up of their brand new SUV, the Lucid Gravity, right?
Completely depends on it. The global market buys SUVs in massive volume. Sedans are a shrinking slice of the pie.
Which is kind of sad for sedan lovers, but it's just a fact.
The interim CEO, Mark Winterhoff, was very blunt about this. He stated that 2025 was entirely about execution, setting up long-term success, reducing unit costs, and preparing the Gravity for mass production.
So they are attempting to transition from a boutique maker of ultra-luxury sedans into a volume manufacturer.
And that transition is historically where automotive startups fail. Scaling up production without losing the legendary build quality that justified your high prices in the first place is notoriously difficult.
Speaking of that tension between volume and quality, there is a tiny, fascinating detail buried deep in the financial report that perfectly captures Lucid's internal struggle.
I know exactly what you're going to bring up.
It's so telling. They actually had to revise their 2025 production numbers down from their initial estimates.
Yeah. On January 5th, they announced a preliminary production number of 18,378 vehicles.
Ah.
But in this final February report, they revised that official number down to 17,840.
And the reason behind that revision is wild. They realized that 538 vehicles hadn't completed the absolute final internal validation procedures required to be officially classified as produced.
So they just held them back.
They held back over 500 cars from their annual count just to make sure they were flawless.
You really have to understand the immense pressure from Wall Street to hit quarterly production targets, to get how crazy that is. Every single vehicle counts toward investor confidence.
Which makes holding back 538 cars seem completely insane from a financial perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
Wall Street analysts are screaming for deliveries to justify that $4.6 billion lifeline, and Lucid essentially says, nope, these 538 vehicles aren't quite ready to leave the factory.
It perfectly illustrates the double-edged sword of their corporate culture. That uncompromising dedication to perfectionism is exactly why the Sapphire is hailed as the best-handling sedan in the world.
They refuse to ship a car with panel gaps or software bugs.
They are fiercely protecting their brand equity, knowing that early adopters of the Gravity SUV need to have a flawless experience to drive future sales. But protecting the brand comes at the direct cost of short-term financial efficiency.
And then there is a massive wild card buried in this financial report. It is a complete left turn in the narrative.
The robo-taxis.
Yes. The company that built the ultimate driver's car, the 1,234 horsepower Sapphire with a dedicated track mode, is now aggressively pushing into the robotaxi market.
The earnings report specifically highlights that they advance their long-term growth platforms in autonomy, robotaxi development, and software.
It's just such a pivot.
The CEO outlined a strategy to leverage their industry-leading powertrain technology and strong partnerships to position Lucid as an early mover in the emerging robotaxi space.
And they name names, right?
They did. The forward-looking statements in the report explicitly drop names like Uber, Nuro, and NVIDIA.
See, I have to push back on this strategy a little bit. Does a luxury brand really want its cutting-edge technology inside a driverless commercial pod?
It's a fair question.
You go from Asteria the goddess, driving the best handling sedan in history, to a commercial taxi fleet where there isn't even a steering wheel. Doesn't that completely dilute the prestige of the brand they've spent billions building?
It might dilute the romantic image, sure, but it makes perfect financial sense when you look at their core intellectual property.
How so?
Lucid's primary advantage isn't just making cars go fast, it is their unbelievable powertrain efficiency. They can squeeze 427 miles of range out of a battery pack, better than almost anyone else in the industry.
Okay, and how does that translate to a commercial fleet?
Think about it. If you are running a commercial fleet of rototaxis for Uber or Nuro, efficiency is your ultimate metric. A vehicle that has to stop and charge for an hour is a vehicle that isn't generating revenue.
Ah, downtime is the enemy.
Exactly. If Lucid can provide a platform that runs 20% longer on a single charge than the competition, fleet operators will buy it in massive quantities.
So it's a B2B play.
It is a highly capital-efficient way to monetize their technology beyond just selling individual luxury cars to rich consumers. They're selling the invisible technology underneath the car.
Wow. Let's step back and look at the massive journey we've taken today. We started in the realm of pure mythology, examining a sapphire blue chariot fit for a Greek Titan.
A literal god-tier machine.
A machine that utilizes torque vectoring and carbon ceramic brakes to hit 60 miles an hour in under 2 seconds while completely isolating the driver from the noise of the outside world.
And then we crashed headfirst into the trenches of a brutal 2025 balance sheet.
We looked at a company celebrating over $1 billion in revenue while simultaneously navigating a $12 per share loss, kept alive by a $4.6 billion liquidity lifeline and an agonizing pivot to volume manufacturing with the Gravity SUV.
And finally, we looked ahead to a future where their survival might depend on autonomous commercial fleets.
It really is the perfect snapshot of the modern automotive industry in 2026. The romantic, traditional ideal of the automobile is colliding head-on with the stark realities of scale, software monetization, and autonomous technology.
It's a fascinating time to be watching this space.
It really is. Now, before we sign off, I just have to take a second and say a massive, sincere thank you directly to you, our listener.
Yes, thank you.
You could be spending your time doing a million other things right now. Honestly, you could be listening to a deep dive about actual Greek mythology instead of just our fun metaphors, but you chose to hang out with us, nerding out over torque vectoring and gap accounting.
It's the best kind of nerding out.
It really is. We love putting these deep dives together for you, having these conversations, digging into these wild stories and connecting the dots. We try to keep it fun and sympathetic to the madness of this industry, and we truly, sincerely appreciate you trusting us with your time.
We absolutely do. And I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative puzzle to chew on, building off everything we've just discussed today.
Ooh, lay it on us.
The Lucid Air Sapphire is explicitly designed with dedicated Sapphire and track drive modes.
Right.
The engineering specs tell us these modes actively alter the steering weight, the torque distribution, the thermal battery controls, and the suspension stiffness.
All for the driver.
Exactly. All of those systems are specifically calibrated for an engaged, highly skilled human driver to push the absolute limits of physics on racetrack. It's the love letter to the act of driving. But if Lucid's long-term financial survival, the only way they escape the valley of death, relies on pivoting their technology to autonomous robo-taxis and driverless commercial fleets. What happens to the soul of the company?
Wow.
Will the ultimate driver's car eventually be built by a company that has no need for drivers at all?
Man, now that is a thought to keep you up at night. Thank you for that, and thank you all for joining us. Until next time.